This is my talk on lifetime care. Some of you in here have seen it. And so because of that, I changed part of it. Okay, so the first part's going to look real familiar if you've seen this talk before. Second part's going to be radically different than it was like the last time you saw it. So when we talk about lifetime care, what do we mean by that? I mean, does that just mean like you just have a large bottle of aspirin and Tums in the medicine cabinet just in case? What does it mean like when we talk about lifetime care?
All aspects. To me, it means all aspects. Your foods, your exercise,
your tune-ups.
Yeah, tune-ups. Your mental abilities and your emotions and positive thinking, or more, not positive thinking only, but how our outlook on life.
It's a very holistic type approach, yeah. Anybody else want to take a stab at it?
Maintaining true health for a longer period of time.
Yeah, just maintaining health for, I mean, is it possible to be healthy into old age? Well, what's old age? You know, that's another, I'm afraid to define that actually. So as we get older, past 60, is it possible to be healthy?
Yes.
Yeah. It is. Now, yeah, it is very possible. So there's a lot of dogma out there that's about lifetime care that's founded on cliches and not really very substantive. So if we look at some of the misconceptions, this is number one. If it doesn't hurt, there must not be a problem. Okay, is that true or false?
False.
Okay, but you know, it's interesting because I was at the bank yesterday and this girl that was waiting on me asked me, what kind of doctor are you anyway? And I said, well, I'm a doctor of chiropractic and functional medicine. She says, I said, who adjusts you? And she says, well, I've never felt like I needed it. Okay, so that's that. If it doesn't hurt, we don't need to fix it. Okay, and that's the attitude that we've had in our culture for a long time, and it doesn't work very well. So. And we're gonna talk about that. It's not really a basis for sound healthcare. So if our engine isn't seized up, we don't need to add oil. Okay, we don't need to change the oil, or unless we're gonna wait till the engine seizes up. How many people do that? Now, when I was in college in chiropractic school, I knew some girls that did that. They never changed the oil in their car. Pretty soon their engine didn't work very well, you know, and so don't be offended when I say that, but it happened, okay? So, we change the oil because we want the car to last a long time and work its best. So as human beings, we want things to work at their best, and everybody, most people at least, want new and better. So when new cell phones come out with new features, people run out and buy that. We want cars to be safer and faster and more service conscious. But that doesn't mean that we always want to pay the price, especially for our health. So anybody ever been made fun of for taking care of themselves, besides me? Okay, what was your experience, Madeline?
Why would you work out? That seems like extra work after you've already worked a full day. It's like, what's the point, rather than... What's
the point of exercising, right? Yeah. How about you, Connie?
Well, I carry my vitamins with me all the time, and some are now herbal drops. So I get my drops out, and his sister just says, oh, she's got her dope out now. I mean, it's a joking way. She doesn't mean it in a bad way at all. So, and I guess I just learned to do that years and years ago, and so what?
Yeah, so nobody would say anything if you had pharmaceuticals.
Right.
If those are pharmaceutical, oh my gosh, you need those. Good thing you have them, you know. But for supplements that actually enhance the function of your body, people don't think like that. You know? Here's the one. You ever been called a health nut? I have. What are you, some kind of health nut? Okay. So what's the best way to answer that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I say, well, what are you, a disease nut? You know, that's what I say. You know, I mean, let's call it for what it is, okay? So that's the same thing with chiropractic. You know, they say, well, haven't they fixed you yet if you're going in and you're free of pain? So yeah, we do things. We tend to do things for the virtue of doing them because they're the right thing to do. Now let's just talk about the spine for just example. Each of us are designed from a blueprint that provides us template for health. And the template is really the spine, okay? The degree to which we reflect this blueprint is determined by the quality and quantity of care we provide for our bodies, okay? So if subluxations are present in the spine, the blueprint to your health is going to be altered. And vibrant health is diminished. And here's the thing. When you have subluxations in your spine and they remain there for a long time, it actually ages. You age faster, okay? In my chiropractic and science talk, I talk a little bit more about how that was proven like many years ago, back in the 1920s. But subluxations actually age your body faster, so you don't want them. And all of us have seen people that you know they say they're a certain age, but they look a lot older, and you can't say anything, but you go, man, what happened to you? You know, and so we don't want people to think that about us. So we want to clear and correct subluxations because that slows down the aging process. And again, in my chiropractic and science class, I talk about that a lot more. So this thing just stopped working.
Battery.
There we go. So we don't exercise today to prevent a heart attack tomorrow. At least I don't. We exercise because it really enhances our life, how we feel, how much energy we have, what we're able to do. And it even enhances the meals that we eat. I mean, personally, I just feel better about eating when I exercise regularly. We don't read, to fix our brain today so we don't have a headache, okay? We know that reading, and this is proven by science, reading and using our brain and keeping our brain active keeps it healthier longer. And what is one of the number one causes of death in our culture today? Anybody know? Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is one of the leading causes of death, okay? And I have an entire talk just on Alzheimer's. So we want to keep our brains healthy. So this brings us to lifetime care. And a lot of people, will not engage in this. In fact, it's a minority of people in our population that actually want to respond to their health even when there's not a crisis. And that's really, really important. So we don't wait till the IRS seizes our house before we respond to their letters. We don't wait till we have a heart attack to work on our heart. We want to do that beforehand. So let's look at important point number 2. So important point number 1 was just because it's not broke, it doesn't mean we don't work on it, okay? Important point number 2, lifetime care is not an outcome, but a never-ending process that we have to be consistently engaged in. So when are you going to be done exercising? Okay, when are you going to be done eating the right food? Okay, I mean, if you ever get put in a nursing home, then you'll be done eating the right food. And that's unfortunate. Or they put you in a hospital, then you'll be done eating the right food. Anybody ever seen what they feed people in a hospital? Yes. I mean, they ought to be giving them gourmet meals for what they charge for a hospital room. So we're not going to be done exercising and eating the right food. When are you going to be done brushing your teeth? Like, at 50? I'm done, man. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm tired of it.
When they all fall out.
Yeah. We want to hang on to our teeth. At least I do. Praying. When are we done praying? When are we done loving our family? So anything that applies to the virtue of existence is a process, and so is taking care of ourselves, and we have to engage in that process, which we're never done. So some people, when they start chiropractic care, they hear stories, you have to go for the rest of your life. You don't. You can quit any time, okay? But why is it that people do that? Why do they keep getting adjusted even when they're free of pain?
Maintain and prevent any future issues,
Yeah.
possibly.
Okay, so that's right. Okay, anybody else want to take a stab at that? Why do you keep getting adjusted after you're free of pain? Why would you do that?
Doesn't it help if isn't your spine have a lot to do with the rest of your body? So you want to make sure that it's all working in the right order.
Yeah, that's a very good answer. How many central nervous systems do you have? Can you replace it?
No.
Can you replace your brain and spinal cord?
No.
Can you get a spinal replacement? Can you get a spine transplant? No. Can't even get a vertebral transplant. Okay, you get a liver transplant, you get a lung transplant, you get a kidney transplant, you can't get a spine transplant, and you can't get a central nervous system transplant. So when I adjust your spine, we're taking care of your spinal column, but we're also affecting and speaking or communicating with your central nervous system. And so when people get adjusted over time, they become more aware of their health and how they feel. And when they're out of adjustment, you may not even necessarily have pain. You can just tell your body isn't working as efficiently, at least I can. And so people begin to experience more health and vitality rather than just a reduction in pain. So let me talk about a woman who came into my office. This is she I don't see her very often now, but she's in a car accident, and she's about 24, I think, 23 or 24. I saw her for about 6 months. Okay, so we're done with care, ready to dismiss her. So on the last day that I see her, she says, "Yeah, can I ask you a question?" She says, "I don't know if this is a coincidence or not, but when I first came to see you, I was having a lot of menstrual pain and cramps and things like that." And she says, "Now I don't have that anymore. Did the adjustments help that? What do you think?" You think, yeah, how? How would the adjustments have helped that? Anybody know?
Increased communication and function
Through what?
through the spinal cord to the ovaries and the...
Yeah, does a uterus and ovary have a nerve supply? Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's that nerve supply come from?
Spine.
Spine, especially right down here, okay? So if this is better, maybe, those organs are going to work better, and that's exactly what happened. So yeah, I said, no, there's no coincidence here. Now, that didn't happen the first month. It took several months for that to happen before that cleared up. So the point of that is that just because something doesn't happen in 6 weeks doesn't mean it's not going to happen. In fact, I'll tell you an interesting story. I have a patient right now. I really like this guy a lot. He's 40 years old. His mother referred him into me. And he's got 2 arms that don't work. One was a birth injury. Okay, so his one arm, he can't move it very well. It hurts him all the time. He's injured at birth. So to compensate for that, he uses his right arm all the time. Well, eventually, his right arm and shoulder and neck started hurting too. So now he had both shoulders, both arms hurting him all the time. Okay, so he came in to see me. I saw him, and he was desperate, and his mother was desperate to see him get better. So I saw him for 6 weeks, first 6 weeks, sat down to do his re-exam, started asking about his symptoms. I said, "How you doing? Is this better? No. Is this better? Is this changed?" Nothing. Not any of his symptoms changed. Nothing in 6 weeks. Now, his grip strength was better. Range of motion was better. A lot of his function was better, but his pain had not changed. But he wanted to stay with the care. He wanted to stay with it. What do you think most people would have done? Yeah, they'd have quit. This isn't working. So he stayed with me, And so now he's been a patient of mine for probably, what would you say, Carmen, 5 months?
About 6
Is that about
months,
right?
5 or 6 months, yeah.
And now his neck is feeling way better. His right arm's hardly has any pain in his arm anymore. And his mother, every time his mother talks to me about him now, she almost starts crying. She says, I just want to thank you because we got our son back. He was always in pain, and he never felt good. He was always irritable because of that. She says, we've got our son back. But it took him about 3 months before he really started to see a change. 3 months, and now he's doing great. So it doesn't, just because you're not well instantaneously doesn't mean you can't get well or you won't get well. But in our instantaneous culture where information is instantaneous, our microwaves are instantaneous, body doesn't work like that necessarily. So this is one reason insurance companies don't pay wellness, okay? So with sickness, insurance companies can make these mathematical equations where people should get well by this period of time, or they should have a lessening of symptoms, really, not even well necessarily. But wellness is infinite. It just keeps going up and up and up. An insurance company they don't like wellness because they can't make an equation out of it. So I want to ask you guys a question. How would you measure wellness? How would you measure that? How do you think we should measure it? Or can it be measured? Can wellness be measured? Can health be measured?
I don't know that it can be measured because each person is going to be different. What one person feels is health, the next person doesn't. What
Okay.
I've experienced.
Okay.
I know the level I want, but I don't know if that's the same
Maybe not the same for everybody.
for everybody.
Okay.
It's difficult.
So we can measure things like, blood sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if somebody's got high blood sugar, are they well or not?
No.
No, they're not. Okay. So if we bring their blood sugar down to normal, that could be a measurement of wellness. Okay. Heart rate variability is another one. Anybody ever heard of heart rate variability? Okay. Okay. Can you define it?
It's your heart's ability to go from a high to a low rate, and whether or not it recovers well in the range that it maintains.
Yeah, that's pretty much the way it is. It's measuring your autonomic nervous system. So your sympathetic nervous system speeds it up, parasympathetic slows it down. So I used to have a heart rate variability monitor here, and I don't have it anymore, and I won't go into why I don't have it. But your body's ability to do this, speed it up and slow it down, is a measurement of health. The more it can do that, the more efficiently it can do that, the healthier you are. It's called heart rate variability. So that's a really dynamic measurement of health. But certain blood tests, measure health as well. So there's certain ways we can do that. So I want to talk about ligaments and micro trauma versus macro trauma. So what does a ligament do?
Holds things in place.
What?
Holds things together.
Yeah, it holds bones together. Okay, that's what ligaments do. Okay, so when a ligament is torn or when skin is torn, it heals with scar tissue. It's like scar tissue, like taking a pile of toothpicks and just dumping it on the floor. That's what scar tissue is in the body. So the problem with that is that scar tissue is weaker than normal tissue, and it's much more pain sensitive than normal tissue, and much more likely to get re-injured than normal tissue. So there's things you can do to mitigate scar tissue. For example, if you get a scar, you can rub wheat germ oil on it every day, and that will really mitigate the scar. Okay, just doing that. Lasering it regularly will mitigate the scar. You can get rid of a scar with laser if you do it long enough, for a long enough period of time. So here's a healthy muscle. Okay, here's a muscle that's been injured right here. So you see that you got some stretching and tearing in there. This is a muscle that's healing, that's poor, that's healing very poorly. Okay, And then here is a scar tissue in the muscle, which is going to cause that muscle not to work right, okay? Gonna restrict it. So we want to heal the body with as little scar tissue as we can, all right? So what would cause a ligament or a muscle to be injured, to where you really need to be aware of the scar tissue? Anybody? Fall? Okay, yeah, especially from a pretty good height. So a fall can do it for sure. What else?
Lifting more than you practiced or exercised too.
So overtraining. Yeah, that could do it. I was thinking more of like an automobile accident. A rear end car collision can really stretch and tear a ligament. And for a long time, people refused to believe that somebody with a whiplash was actually injured, when now we have enormous amounts of research that show that that's not true, that people are really injured. So there's an orthopedic surgeon, I can't remember his name, but he found, this is several years ago, probably several decades ago, that when you're healing an injury, the worst thing you can do, like a soft tissue injury, is mobilize it, keep it immobile, so remember those collars people used to wear around their neck?
Yeah.
We found out they were not good for people, okay, at all, okay? So keeping keeping motion in the area. Even now when these football players get these ligament injuries in their knees, and they're going through the healing process, right after surgery, they put them on a machine that just moves their knee very, very slowly, because we know that immobilizing an injury like that, a ligament injury, is really bad for it, and it's not going to recover. So I want to talk about another type of injury, and this is more of what I see in my office. We call this viscoelastic creep. Now, what would that be? What can anybody give me an example of how that would happen? Viscoelastic creep. Anybody want to take a stab at it?
Poor posture habits.
Yes, very good. Poor posture. So, a forward head posture. So ligaments, if you hit them hard enough, they'll snap, but they won't stretch. Stretching a ligament, it happens over time with weight, okay? So if you have your head and it just, your head is starting to translate forward like this, eventually those ligaments are going to stretch, okay, to where you're not going to be able to, your head isn't going to come back to normal. And we see people that are like this. I have patients that are like this, okay? And so that's called viscoelastic creep. It's now here's why this is important. And this is a brand new piece of research. It hasn't even been published yet. So research is showing that for every millimeter reduction in forward head carriage, there's a measurable change in neural integration, in cognition, in other words, your ability to think, and in hand-eye coordination. Okay, every millimeter is like that. Okay, so what is neural integration? It's a state where your nervous system is able to coordinate all your body functions and create balanced and sustainable health. So when I have you do your neck traction exercises, this is exactly what I'm trying to do. Trying to bring your head back over your shoulders, so that your nervous system is healthier. So why would this happen? So why would a head, or why would you have problems with cognition, problems with neural integration, problems with hand-eye coordination with your head out like that? Why is that? Anybody?
Wouldn't it because of your bad posture?
Bad
As you
posture.
get older?
But what is it creating in the body that causes that?
Unusual pressures.
Where?
Spines.
How about your spinal cord? Your spinal cord is supposed to stretch like this. It's not designed to stretch like a a band, or it's not designed for that. And so, what about your eyes? When they're out there like this, they're not going to work as well as when they're back here. And so this is really, really important. And your posture actually has a great deal to do with your health. Now, here's another piece of interesting information. Your forward head translation results in more falls. We know that. There's good research that show that. Current statistics show that 42% of adults over 55 years old in our society will die as a result of complications of falling, okay? So, how do you avoid falling? Well, one of the ways is you bring your head back over your shoulders, okay? So that your posture, so you're not doing this. Right now I have a patient, and I really like this guy a lot, but he falls a lot, but this is his posture, like this. Well, where's your center of gravity when you're like this? It's forward. So you don't even have the center of gravity that keeps you upright. So this is really, really important, and this is something that should be broadcasted a lot. Now, I'm going to ask you this. Why do people require knee and hip replacements? Why is that? Why do knees wear out? Why do hips wear out? What's going on? I mean, if you look at the Bible and you look at people that lived like 900 years, you never saw that they had 16 hip replacements and 20 knee replacements, and they didn't need the little blue pill to get their wives pregnant. I mean, it's like you just go on and on. But why do people require hip and knee replacements?
Poor posture causes your cartilage to wear out.
Yeah, it's the viscoelastic creep. So if your posture, if you're not standing like straight and your posture, you're putting more weight on one side than the other, what's going to happen to the ligaments that hold your knees together? They're going to stretch, and that's going to affect the pressure on that knee and that hip, okay? So has anybody in here ever heard one time, and maybe I've never heard it, but maybe you have, an orthopedic surgeon say, this is how you prevent a hip and knee replacement? Anybody ever heard that? I never have, okay? So I'm going to tell you how to do it, okay? The way that I know to do it. Number one, there's 3 things you got to do. You need to eat a very low inflammation diet, okay? So you don't want inflammation. You don't want to eat foods that create inflammation. So what's the number one food that creates inflammation? Sugar, okay. We won't go into any more of that, okay? Number 2, we need to exercise regularly, okay? We need to keep our muscles. We need to exercise our core, exercise our muscles so they're strong and they hold us together. What's number 3? What would number 3 be? Anybody guess? Come on, you should know that.
Chiropractic care.
How about chiropractic care? Okay, so you need chiropractic care, okay, to keep your posture, to work on your posture, work on your nervous system. Those are the 3 things that will prevent a hip and knee replacement. Those 3. You take any one of those things out of the equation, that's going to cause you problems. Now, the last thing I want to talk about before I let you go is I want to talk about diagnostic x-rays and how they affect the body, okay? Has anybody in here ever heard that x-rays are really bad for you? They'll cause all these problems. Anybody ever heard that? Okay, you have. Okay. So did I, growing up. Even in chiropractic college, we didn't have the research that we had now, so we thought, well, we need x-rays, but they're really not good for people, and radiation and all of that. Well, we found out that none of that we thought was actually true, okay? So according to the EPA, the average diagnostic x-ray delivers what are called 0.04 REMs to the body. REM stands for radiation equivalent to man, okay? That's what that means. According to the National Council on Radiation Protection, the NCRP, the annual limits currently are 50 REMs per year, okay, per person. So that's 1,250 medical x-rays you can have, okay? So is a set of x-rays dangerous? Not even a little bit, okay? Now, a dose of 100 rem all at once will cause nausea. That's 250 medical x-rays or 2,500 medical x-rays simultaneously. No, nobody's gonna get that. Okay, a CT scan is 30 rem, which is 750 x-rays. You're getting that all at once, but that still doesn't come up to here. A dose of 1,000 all at once will kill you, but it'll be over a period of several weeks. All right. Now, the typical dose to kill a thyroid tumor is 3,000 rem. All right. So that's what they're using. That's 75,000 x-rays, but they're using a very small beam to kill the thyroid tumor. So you don't have the whole body exposed. All right. So I want you to understand that there's this. Has anybody in here ever heard the word hormesis? Anybody know what that word means? Do you know?
Heard it, but I don't know.
Okay, hormesis means this. It means that you need a certain amount of something to be healthy. Not enough and you're not healthy, too much and you're not healthy, but just right and you're healthy. So what would be an example of something that would be hormesis?
X-rays.
X-ray, yeah, great answer, by the way. Yeah, so, what they're finding is small doses of radiation actually make the body stronger, okay? And we need we walk around, we get radiation all the time from the atmosphere. So actually, X-rays from an X-ray machine, when they're done, for spinal X-rays, actually create a stress response in the body that makes it stronger. What other things would we call hormesis? What we refer to as that? How about exercise? That's a good one. So no exercise is not good at all. Some exercise is really good. Too much exercise is not good. Okay? So exercise. We could say the same thing with food. Okay? There's certain amount that we need, but too much or too little. So X-rays goes into this. X-rays is part of this, okay? So we do need some radiation, and some radiation is actually good for us. So I've used up my half hour, and that's all we're going to talk about tonight. So as your doctor of chiropractic and someone who wants to take care of your spine and nervous system, I want you to think about what we talked about tonight. I want you to do your regular spinal exercises that I gave you, traction exercises. I want you to do core muscle exercises, which are really, really important for maintaining good structure. And some of you may know somebody that needs this information or just needs to get checked, just needs to get their body checked out. They're not feeling well, they're not healthy, they're not getting over problems. And I would say just send them in and just let me check them. I do a subluxation check, we do it at our expense. I can tell them, hey, I can help you or I can't help you. And you can just call Carmen and let her know that. So that's all I have for tonight. Does anybody have any questions over anything I went over? Everything's clear as mud, right? Okay. All right, good. So our next talk is on the immune system, building immunity for health. It's the first time I've ever done that in this office. I've never done that talk before. We're going to do 2 new talks this year. We're going to do the immunity talk, and then hopefully in May or possibly in June, I'm going to do a talk called Talking Back to Ozempic. And we're going to talk about Ozempic, what it does, the side effects, how it affects the body, and natural things that you can do to stimulate the receptors in the body that Ozempic is doing. So that should be a good talk. I'm not done with it yet. I'm supposedly, theoretically, going to work on that on my vacation next week. I'm hoping I will at least. So anyway, no questions. Thank you so much for being